Megan, hope you're well today. And thanks for making time to talk about one of my cases, Amy. I've reached the decision, or I've reached the point where I believe that either I need to get additional support to assist Amy, or I'm going to need to terminate our relationship. What I've got before you, and to reach that point, I went through co-chair Keith Spiegel's ethical decision-making model, and I'd like to just step you through that today, if that's all right. So what we have here before you, you should be able to see a mind map which I've prepared. And in the middle of that mind map, the first stage is I needed to identify if there was actually an ethical dilemma. So there is an ethical dilemma here between the principles of beneficence and autonomy. You can see there that Alan describes autonomy as the fundamental need to feel in control of your life, whereas Pelling and Burton described beneficence as doing good, promoting well-being. So there is a clash between those two things. We want to treat Amy with respect and let her be in control of her life, but we also need to do good, and that's problematic with the limitations of low competencies. You can see here in general stage 2 of their decision-making model, the general principle A under the APS Code of Ethics applies. Two standards which are particularly relevant are the informed consent standard and the confidentiality standard. So Amy should expect that her information is treated confidentially, but she should also knowingly and in an informed manner making decisions about the treatment she receives. You can see in regards to beneficence, the relevant standard is under the Code of Ethics is B, proprietary, and a couple of standards there relevant are competence and termination of psychological services. So we can only provide services to Amy which we're really competent to deliver, and I can't do eating disorder issues at the moment. In this other box, I've identified a few other things which I need to keep in mind. There's some legislative guidelines. There's the Racial Discrimination Act 1975. At a Commonwealth level, at a state level, there's the Western Australian Equal Opportunity Act, which really forbid the treatment of discrimination against people on a racial basis, such as their Aboriginality. And there's also a couple of guidelines. There's the ethical guidelines for treating Indigenous people, which the APS provides. And there's also some good documents around, like the Working Together document, which provides guidance on working with Indigenous people. In the values trap, you can see there, I think my fundamental values trap is that I would be inclined to get involved and I focus on the outcome rather than necessarily the process, and that would risk that I would want to step in and help Amy rather than actually respecting her autonomy. So that's a trap I could fall into. If we go a little bit lower, on the left, we've got Amy's rights and vulnerabilities. So Amy is a young person. She's had mental disorders. She's an Indigenous person, so it's likely to have suffered discrimination. She struggled to form therapeutic relationships, so she's quite a vulnerable person in many respects. You can see there are a few standards under the guideline, under the ethics code, which are relevant. So there's A1, which is justice, A2, which is respect, and A3, which is about informed consent. All of these act to provide assurance to Amy that her autonomy and justice are respected. In regards to my rights and vulnerabilities, on the right-hand side of the mind map, you can see that I'm vulnerable in the sense that I don't waste the years of study that I've done making an innocent ethical mistake. As a white person, I feel guilty about the treatment that Aboriginal Australians have experienced. I feel insecure about my comments. As a psychologist, I'm very aware of the limitations, and I've got a significant debt which I need to manage. To protect me, there's a number of standards under Principle B. So there's B1, which is about competence. I don't need to provide services that I'm not competent to provide. There's B8, which is basically about collaborating with other professionals. I'm allowed to do that to assist Amy. B11, termination of psychological services. There's some definite guidelines there about when and how services could be terminated. And there's B3, which provides a broad range of responsibilities about, or advice about how you can responsibly provide psychological services. I have a further mind map which identifies these two different alternatives. So there's alternative A, where basically what I think needs to happen is additional support needs to be brought in to assist Amy. We need to get in somebody that's a specialist in eating disorders. We need somebody who's culturally competent in Amy's community. And if Amy has agreed to those additional supports, then we could provide those, which would mean that I could maintain my therapeutic relationship with her. The advantages of that is that Amy gets a range of additional treatments and she can keep a relationship with me, which she's finding beneficial. It respects her right to make choices of herself and it respects, provides justice to her. And basically, I would feel better and unprotected that additional people are providing those additional services. The negatives are that basically Amy may just walk away. She may not be interested in doing this, and that's her prerogative, but it would nevertheless be sad to see her walk away as a vulnerable person. The other option that I see is that I actually need to explain to Amy the limitations of what I can do. I need to terminate the relationship while providing her with contacts where she might be able to get assistance for her eating disorders and in regard to her Indigenous issues. The advantages of that option is that her autonomy and justice is respected and she's got an option to get additional help. But a negative yet again is that she may simply walk away. And I think I'd actually be quite conflicted if that happened. Just finally, so to provide that assistance to Amy, what I would do is I'd consult with my supervisor, I'd get information and source contacts which can actually provide the support that she needs. I'd present that information, I'd have a sit down and a conversation with her just to explain that all and hopefully assist her through whatever decision she decided is appropriate for her situation. So any advice you have would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.